Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever and wherever you're watching or listening. This is the Awesemo NHL DFS Strategy Show, and I'm your host, Michael Clifford, a.k.a. Slim Cliffy. Joining me for the next hour to talk about our favorite iteration of the Batman, our single-entry assassin, Mr. Joshua Harris. Josh, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing well. It's the Dark Knight. Anyone else have a different opinion, that's fine. We'll still be friends. I just want you guys know you're wrong.
I rewatched that Nolan trilogy recently. It is good. It is so good. And it makes me really miss the old action movie days when it was just a set piece, like in a downtown area and not, in some green screen studio, in the middle of nowhere in California. Like, I love those types. That's why I love the John Wick movies, even though there's some CGI in that. It's a lot of real good action. Those Nolan movies still hold up so well.
Oh, Batman Begins is so underrated. It's one of the best.
Yeah, I agree. And then even the old ones with Keaton and Kilmer and all, like up until Clooney, like they're at least enjoyable and entertaining.
Wow.
Like Batman Returns is a wild movie. It is not something you watch with kids under the age of 12. No. I don't know what they were thinking, but it's definitely worth it to watch if you haven't seen it lately.
I also don't know why they cast George Clooney, because George Clooney plays George Clooney in every movie. He's not
every movie is George Clooney, just with a different suit on. Yeah. But we are here to talk about hockey. We're not here to talk about the Batman, though I am excited for that movie. Nice little 6-game slate we have coming up here tonight. We are sponsored by Yahoo Fantasy. Yahoo has been our sponsor the entire season. And if you're new here, if you haven't played DFS over on Yahoo yet, first-time users can get some free money from Yahoo. So stick around for a little giveaway through them a little later in the show. Before we get too much further, if you guys could throw us a thumbs up in the chat. Those likes help us out. The subscriptions, especially, if you guys could, if you're new here, if you haven't clicked that subscribe button yet, please do so. Those help build the channel and keep these shows coming on a regular basis. And of course, to watch those shows as they go live, click the bell and you'll get the alerts. Lots of free stuff up on the site today. We normally have free stuff up on the site. Today is no exception. We have our NBA ownership and NHL ownership projections up on the site, as well as our UFC pro plays for this weekend. And Josh was saying just before the show, he is studiously working on his MMA article, and that'll be out sometime tonight or tomorrow. So check out Awesemo.com for some free MMA stuff if you're playing some MMA this weekend. We also have a giveaway through our podcast. So head on over to the Awesemo podcast channel and just leave a 5-star review with your Twitter handle or your Awesemo username, and you'll be entered to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. We also have a new betting show, an NBA betting show called Locks Before Lock. It's 30 minutes every day before the deeper dive. And if you're into some NBA betting, whether it's props or sides or whatever, I believe it's mostly props. Head on over to the Awesemo Odd Shopper channel. Lots of NBA stuff going on there. We'll be talking about the NBA shows a little later on, but we have, I think it's nearly 4 NBA shows a day now. There's lots of NBA coverage here if you love basketball. Let's talk about last night a little bit. You and I didn't have particularly great nights, but there were some great nights sent in to us. We have to shout out Nawada taking down the $19 qualifier. He's heading to the Fantasy Hockey World Championships. Took down first place in that $19 last night, as I mentioned. Wicked Nick sent that in to us on Twitter. Congratulations to him. He said he did it mostly through tickets that he won, it's one of those ways, like, if you don't have a massive bankroll, you should be entering the very low dollar tickets to get in the Tuesday 20s or the $19 qualifiers, though those are over now. But those types of things are what can kind of turbocharge your bankroll if you're still playing with very low stakes. So congrats to him. We also had another winner in the chat sent to us by Mookie999G over on DK. Took down first place in the 20 max for a cool $1,500 last night. So Jeff Blick, I see you in chat. Congrats to you. Very, very good night last night. Congrats to anybody else that might have had a good night that we didn't see. I did not do so well last night, Josh. I went 3 max. I went heavy on Calgary. It was the Calgary second line in particular. They did not really, I mean, they got a goal, but obviously it wasn't enough to really do anything. I did not do well last night. How did you do?
I didn't do too great. I used Markstrom. The Flames turned into the Flams, and it happens. It was due to happen. We got hit with some regression last night, but it's fine. I used Florida too. Declare didn't do anything, but Bennett and Huberdeau were pretty good. Used the Foley, and I used the Sharks. Not a great night overall, but even if they did well, I don't think I still would have done very well because the Canucks just went absolutely nuclear. And if you are a single entry player like me, chances are you weren't on the Canucks. That was an MME type deal. You could tell by their ownership, they're like 1, 2, 3%. But those are the nights where, if you're an MME player, you kind of have an advantage in the MME tournaments. Obviously in single entries, like if you play the Canucks in single entries, like you kind of, I don't want to say like you like seeing those lineups because you see them winning all the money, but like if you're going to uncork some Canucks last night in single entry, you got some grande cojones,
Yeah. I wasn't on the Canucks last night in that matchup. I mean, even if the Canucks in my head were to pull that game out last night, it would have been like a 3-1 grinding game where Demko stops, 45 shots or something like that. It wasn't a 7-1 game where they just absolutely bomb one of the best teams in the league completely out of the rink. But that wasn't the only blowout last night. Devils going into Pittsburgh. That's kind of illustrative. We talk about how teams generally struggle from coming back from long layoffs, and they do. The numbers bear that out, but generally doesn't mean always. And, one of the situations where it wasn't in one of those generalities was last night. 3 goals in the first 7 minutes or something like that. Devils on the slate here tonight. We're going to talk about them a little bit later. Did you watch any of that game last night? Was there anything that stood out to you?
I mean, I had it on while I was cooking dinner. For some reason, the Rangers game was blacked out, so I didn't get to see Igor Goat. But I turned on the Devils game because I like Payne. But it wasn't even competitive. Like the Penguins, it looked like the Penguins were coming off like a 2-week bye. Like they just had nothing. Yari was all over the place. The Devils' second line just ran over the Carter Malkin line so bad that they separated them in the first period. So I don't know, man. Like Devils are the first team to come back from a break and actually look like they were ready to go.
And they do have a lot of like good young players on that team. So maybe that's part of it too. I mean, you're not a bunch of veterans coming back from a long layoff. You're a bunch of 22, 23, 24-year-olds. Maybe that's part of it, but yeah, Devils look great. They're on the slate here tonight. We're definitely going to be talking about them. Let's talk about some of these games. Let's get to this first one. I'm sure our boss, Jake Harry, is very much looking forward to this breakdown. The Columbus Blue Jackets have a 2.6 implied goal total. They're going into Carolina. The Hurricanes have a 4.1 implied goal total. A couple notes here for Columbus. None of their goalies are back yet, so they're running JF Berube back in net on a back-to-back. 4 and 6 plus that back-to-back. We'll see how that goes. Carolina looks like they're sticking with that top line, Svechnikov, Aho, Teravainen, Jarvis, and Natchez down on the second line for the Hurricanes. Third line is the same. We saw some Carolina forwards do some damage again last night. They keep scoring. They're not terribly good defensively. In fact, they're terrible defensively, but they keep scoring. So what do we do here, Josh?
Yeah, and looking on DraftKings, like before we got the McKinnon news that he was going to be back, Carolina one was going to be the most expensive line and the highest owned line, but still with positive leverage. Now, I wonder what it's going to do with, McKinnon back, because Colorado one goes from 18K on DraftKings to 23K. So you're going to have to make a choice. Carolina one, Colorado one, they're both in unbelievably good spots. So, I think people are just going to take the savings and go to Carolina. So I think Colorado, which we'll get to later, could be a fun little ride in GPPs. But I think a lot of people are just going to go to Carolina one here. It's JF Berube on a back-to-back. They're going to get, I'm not sure, they've been sending out top lines versus top lines now, right? Yeah, so, Aho is going to get Jenner. line general Voracek.
I should say it's not like they're not going to get 100% of the matchups. They still use the stall line at times, but yeah, the Aho line is taking more top line matchups.
Yeah, like line A, like that line is just shooting a ridiculously high percentage right now. Maybe they continue because the Carolina top line very high event both ways, but like this is still advantage Carolina one. Like the general line of Voracek line is awful defensively. Berube back to back. This is 4 and 6. Like it's really hard to get away from the Carolina Hurricanes here. Fully correlated. I want to see their ownership after the Colorado update, but I still would imagine it's going to be around 20%. You look at our lineup builder, they're projected for 42.5 points, which is, I think, tops on the night. I think Colorado one might be higher, but 42.5 points is just insane. So, Carolina one, as Niehaus would say, in a primo spot. I still think, you can go to Carolina 2 here. I wish their ownership was a bit lower. I wish that the ownership disparity was a bit bigger, just so I can, go to like Trocheck and Netchus to get, some lower ownerships from cheaper prices and a very high total. I still think you can, especially Trocheck because he's power play 1 under 5K. Nice little pivot off some heavy Carolina 1 chalk. Jarvis moving back up there. Hasn't really been doing too much for DFS lately, but he's cheap. I think Carolina 2 is a decent option as well. On the Columbus side, I'm just so tired of Patrick Laine. He's a good player, but I've been fading him for the past few weeks in DFS, and he's just been terrorizing me in my dreams because he's shooting, as you mentioned to me before the show, 36% over the last month. So
exactly.
So is he going to keep shooting 36%? If he sustains that, he's going to have 900 goals at the end of the year, something like that. But I'm out on Columbus. I'm going to stay on the fade train. They are coming in at 1-2% right now. So in GPPs, if you want to get to them in MME, I think that's fine because the Aho line does give it up defensively.
Yeah, that's the one thing I do want to mention about Carolina's top line is how they do trade chances back and forth. 3.9 expected goals for per 60 minutes, which is just outstanding offensively, but 3.7 expected goals against. 37 scoring chances for, but 32 scoring chances against per 60 minutes. So yes, they're excellent offensively, but yes, they also do give it up going back the other way. That's probably part of the reason why you're seeing that total on Columbus here. It's at 2.6 total, which is, considerably higher than Buffalo. It's higher than Winnipeg. Even though they're on, a back-to-back in 4 and 6, it's because Carolina hasn't been as great defensively as they have been at different times this year. If you just look at their expected goals numbers, looking over the last 6 weeks, the Carolina Hurricanes had the 6th highest expected goals against in hockey over the last 7 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks. Worse than Anaheim, worse than Ottawa, worse than the Rangers. They're giving it up. That's what worries me about Columbus here is, they're not a great generating line, but Laine is one of the best shooters, period, in hockey. We joke about it all the time, but he gets 2 shots. He can score 2 goals. That's just what he does. So it's concerning how they're going to use Carolina here against that Columbus top line. I don't have interest in the Columbus top line. I think they're overpriced. The ownership is coming in just fine, but again, 4 and 6 back to back. I'm probably going to be off of them, but it feels bad because exactly what could be coming down the pipe. But I do like Carolina 1 way more here. Carolina 2. Here's the thing, man. That line has struggled without Andrei Svechnikov on there. That's kind of what bothers me about that trio is that without Svech, they're actually underwater by scoring chance share on the season. That's bad when you're considering you're the second line for a cup contender. So not sure if I'm super high on stacking Carolina 2. I might, like you said, throw in Trocheck, with some sort of power play stack to get a little bit of differentiation or lower ownership. But yeah, I think focusing Carolina 1. Carolina 3 is kind of interesting to me here. That line has been excellent, but it looks like they're coming in with fairly high ownership. Like Nino Niederreiter coming in at nearly 10%. I'd rather look elsewhere for my cheap one-offs. I do like Nino, like in a nutshell, I like the spot for Nino Niederreiter. The line has been good. It's just 10% for a third line. I think that's a little bit high. So maybe some one-offs or something. But Carolina won, Carolina power play. I think some pieces of Columbus won. Definitely just fine here. I don't know what to do with Columbus because they're really starting to spread out the ice time. Like Oliver Bjorkstrand played like 11 minutes last night. I think he's played 41 minutes over his last 3 games, which is like under 15 minutes a game. They're just not using him. So I think you're kind of stuck with Columbus one or bust here if you're playing the Jackets. On the blue line, with Tony DeAngelo out, Jacob Slavin has taken the top power play unit. Now, it was a small sample, but Slavin was on the top power play for like 6 or 7 games earlier in the season when DeAngelo was hurt. And the power play was actually just fine. It's just that he is expensive at 5,200. What do you think about blue liners here?
Yeah, I mean, Slavin is cheaper than what Tony D would be. So I think people are just going to be like, boop, Jacob Slavin with Carolina one. I think Brett Fish, he's a really good one-off at 3,500. He's going to be on the top pair. Brady Shea also fine, 3,900. Then you got some min-price guys. I don't think I'd get to them. On the Columbus side, it's going to be Gavrikov or Peak. I think Bachwist is fine at 3,300 again, especially because Carolina has a good penalty kill, but they do take a lot of penalties. So, 3,300 top power play could be an interesting play.
Yep, I agree with you. Let's move this along to our next game. Buffalo, 2.2 implied goal total going into St. Louis. Blues have a 2.7 implied goal total. Both Brandon Saad and Braden Shen weren't practicing, but it looks like they're both going to be in. Saad was sick, but it looks like he's fine. Braden Shen his wife had a baby. Congratulations to them. Looks like he's going to be in as well. So the lines for St. Louis aren't expected to change. The lines for Buffalo are going to be a little bit different. Both Kyle Okposo and Victor Olofsson back in the lineup tonight. So they're leaving the top line the same. But the second line is Rasmus Asplund, Dylan Cousins, and Kyle Okposo, with the third line of Peyton Krebs, Casey Middlestat, and Victor Olofsson. Not a very high total here on the Buffalo side, but it does feature one of our favorite lines. In fact, 2 of our favorite lines are in this game. What do you think about this one, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, Thompson Skinner tuck line is probably the line you go to in Buffalo. Now, they were pretty heavily owned in Montreal, and they got goose egged. I don't know if their home road splits are that stark, but they're also going to get Ryan O'Reilly Perron, who just sludge it. Like, that's going to just be it. They're just going to just grind that to a halt. So I don't know. I think, going to Buffalo 1 in MME is fine. And 1 to 3, I don't know if I'm going to get there. I haven't made my lineup. 2.2 total on the road. I'm probably going to lean towards no there. I'm not a huge fan of playing O'Reilly Perron anyway. I see the Blues mixed up their power play units again, which is a nightmare, according to our lineup builder. Yeah, so the top power play is now O'Reilly Perron, Tarasenko, Shen, and Krug. The second power play unit is Buchnevich, Thomas, Kyrou, Barbashev, Falk. So it looks like they just flipped Tarasenko and Kyrou, which makes no sense, but not the Blues coach. That kind of like changes things a little bit for me for St. Louis 2, which is my favorite line from this game. I mean, they're going to get a very good 5-on-5 matchup, don't get me wrong, but Buchnevich, Thomas, Tarasenko had been correlated on the power play. They had been the better power play unit. Now Tarasenko goes to the O'Reilly unit, which has been the worst unit. You still can play Thomas Buchnevich on the second unit. It's fine. I'm still in on St. Louis 2 because they're coming in at 3.5%. I think when you get a good line at 3.5% in a really good matchup and a 3.7 total, you can't ignore it because someone got moved off the power play unit you want. So I'm still in on St. Louis 2. I think St. Louis 3 is interesting, but they're coming in double the ownership of St. Louis 2, which has happened the last game too. And then, Braden Shen has the baby daddy narrative. Sure, he just had a kid. So, new dad, new goal, usually what happens. So I think, in a nutshell, I do like Shen, Kyrou, Barbashev. Like, they're going to get a good matchup as well. I'll just, get the lower ownership on the line I like more.
Yeah, I want to talk about the ice time here because we talk about St. Louis 1, St. Louis 2, St. Louis 3. Dividing them up as lines almost feels disingenuous for this particular team because they do use their 3 lines like fairly evenly. Just in the month of February, their entire top 9 is between 15:45 a night and 18:30 a night. Like they're within 3 minutes. Like everybody in the top 9 is within 3 minutes of each other. Most players in the top 6 are within a minute of each other. Like they're basically interchangeable. So I think that's why like that third line ownership, Kyrou, Shen, Barbashev is kind of fine. Is because, if they're going to play 16 minutes, but the Tarasenko line is going to play 17 minutes, and, one line, looking at the pricing from our top stacks tool, one line's just under 13K, one line's 18,700. Like if they're both going to play relatively the same minutes, like I understand that ownership. It's just I really like Braden Shen's just riding a crazy percentage bender, right? He hasn't really been playing that well on any line. It's just that he's been converting a lot of points. He's St. Louis's Blake Wheeler, I guess. For that reason, like I'm still out on St. Louis 1. I've talked about how Ryan O'Reilly hasn't been the same guy offensively, and he's not. I'm going to St. Louis 2. They are a bit overpriced. I think you can leave Tarasenko off the stack. You talked about the St. Louis second power play. Over 10 expected goals per 60 minutes generated so far this year. Kyrou, Buchnevich, and Thomas together on the ice. They've been great. And I think, people can take advantage of that where they're avoiding that second line ownership. So again, back on St. Louis 2 for the Blues. I am in on Buffalo 1 on the Buffalo side. I'm playing 20 max here tonight. You're not going to have to play a lot of them, right? Because they're coming in at, around 3%. Even if they come in at 5%, like playing them in 2 out of 20 lineups gets you 10x or 2x on the field. Sorry. So I do like Buffalo 1 here. I think Buffalo 3 is kind of in play. Olofsson and Middlestat earlier in the year, at least, it seemed like they were playing well together. They're going to get that depth from St. Louis that I don't think is very good. If you want to really get different, I think Buffalo 3 or at least one of the guys off that line is fine. But for me, it's Buffalo 1, St. Louis 2 in this game. Yeah, on the blue line, there's just, like I say it every time, it's pretty much just Justin Falk or bust for me. There's really not a whole lot. I like on the blue side for defensemen and probably just correlating Dahlin with anybody else on the Buffalo. I guess I should say Robert Haig. It looks like he's going to be back in the lineup tonight. Stone min on DraftKings. He could get the block bonus, even minimal minutes. Anybody else?
Really? I mean, 5,500, like, I don't know what his deal is. I guess Justin Falk is fine. Parayko's fine. But none of these guys are just like, please come into my lineup. Like, they're not very inviting at the prices.
Yeah, I agree. Get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, our top stacks, our lineup builder, and a whole lot more. Of course, if you're only looking to play NHL DFS, then you can sign up for one of our Awesemo Plus NHL packages for as low as $3.95 a week. Please note that Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on and can be easily added on to any of these packages at checkout, but it is not included in our base package. However, it is a very valuable addition to your DFS arsenal. So for those looking at multi-enter contests, just add on that Fantasy Cruncher. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. All right, let's get to our next game here. We have the New Jersey Devils with a 2.8 implied goal total. They're going into Chicago. The Blackhawks have a 3.3 implied goal total. Kevin Lankinen back in net, hasn't played in a month. They're throwing him in tonight against New Jersey. Calvin DeHaan on Chicago is a game time decision tonight. That's kind of important because he's one of those guys. Sometimes we throw in for blocks, but he has gotten fairly expensive. New Jersey played last night. They looked great last night. Are they going to look great again tonight, Josh?
No. I'm like, okay. I don't even know how the Hawks are going to match up here because they mixed around their lines again. Shocker. I would imagine they send out Doc Kershaw, Borgstrom against Top Comp. If I had to guess, it's probably going to go out against Hughes. That would leave, DeBrincat, Strome, Kane in bottom 6 matchups. You would hope. The thing is, like, the Hawks are 17-7 on DK, coming in at very high ownership. Vegas 1 is also 17-7 on DK, coming in at low ownership. But, like, I don't know. Like, this is a really good spot for the Hawks. I just wish I could trust these lines, because if the Hawks go down 1-0 earlier, are they going to be the lines after that? Your guess is as good as mine. Like, we can take an educated guess and say that Strome and Kane will at least stay together because they've been playing together for a while. Will DeBrincat get sent down to the third line and Hagel get moved? We just don't know. In a nutshell, DeBrincat, Strome, Kane, I'm very interested in. So are a lot of people. They're projected for the highest owned stack of the night in the latest run. We haven't got a run with McKinnon in, but that shouldn't change too much on the Hawks. That being said, getting the third line of the Devils, Bachquist and Tatar have an okay sample together. Andreas Janssen, okay. Like, they should be able to have their way. Like, John Gillies, probably a net tonight. It could be Dawes back-to-back. I doubt it. But, fully correlated. 17-7. Like, I think, like, if you take ownership into consideration, I'll just go to Vegas 1 at the lower ownership at that price. But if you want to play Chicago 1 in this spot, I am perfectly fine with it. 17-7 is reasonable. They're cheaper than St. Louis 2 in an equally as good spot. So, and Kane and DeBrincat are going to get their minutes. Like, Kane is going to play over 20 minutes. It doesn't matter what the lines are. He's going to get over 20 minutes. So from a minute standpoint, you're going to get your minutes from Chicago 1. So I'm in on Chicago 1. Also in on the Devils' second line again. Hischier, Bratt, Zacha. They're going to get a matchup that's favorable for them. Kevin Lankinen hasn't played since, sometime in January. They're throwing him right in with either of the Devils' top 2 lines, honestly. But I'm going to lean towards Hischier, Bratt, Zacha. They're a little bit cheaper. They have better power play correlation. Chicago has a poor power or penalty kill, so I'm in on Devils' second line. If you want to play Hughes, I think that's perfectly fine. And Chicago 1.
Yeah, I want to talk about the Chicago top line real quick, because something I mentioned to you in our Discord was that the New Jersey side of this in the betting markets has been getting hammered. Chicago opened as a minus 167 favorite, and they're down. I mean, this is on Fantasy Labs. This will be different, in different sports books. From minus 167 to minus 122. The Devils are getting hammered today in the betting markets. That tells me that maybe there might be more Devils ownership than we think, and maybe some less Chicago ownership than we think. That's kind of what I'm getting from that. Nothing that'll be completely out of whack. Like, I'm not expecting Chicago 1 to go from like 22% to like 6% or something like that. It's like, maybe it's like 15% instead of 22% or 16% or something like that. That's all I mean. So if you can look at it under that lens, like if this line isn't coming in at 24%, if they come in at like 17%, it does change the equation a little bit. And yeah, like the Chicago top line doesn't have great offensive numbers together, but Patrick Kane's always been one of those guys like to kind of break expected goals, right? And it's because of just how highly skilled he is. Patrick Laine is kind of the same with his shot skill. The expected goals and actual goals when he's playing well won't align with each other. So I don't mind Chicago 1 here tonight. I think the ownership is coming in just fine. Like you mentioned, John Gillies probably coming in for New Jersey. The Devils are on that back-to-back. I think Chicago 1 is fine, but really I think it's a Devils game. Like, I really do like the Devils here. I agree with you on that second line of Zacha, Hischier, and Bratt. In their sample together this year, 36 scoring chances per 60 minutes, which is just great, controlling 56% of the scoring chances when they're on the ice. And 2/3 are on the top power play unit. along with Damon Severson. Sorry. So, yeah, you're right. That New Jersey second line is going to get, they might see a fair bit of that DeBrincat line. Not a lot, but a fair bit, just because they play so much. And I think that favors New Jersey. So I do like that Devils second line here today. Not going to get to a ton of them, I don't think, but I certainly will have, maybe 2 or 3 out of my 20 max here tonight. We'll see. On the blue line, actually, I just want to say one more thing about the Chicago penalty kill. We used to pick on the Chicago penalty kill a lot because it was one of the worst in hockey for a long time. It looks like it has gotten better. It's not great, but it's not like, stone lock bottom 5 awful PK like Arizona is all the time or something like that, right? So I wonder about defensemen in this game. And let's get to those defensemen, because Damon Severson is running the top power play unit for New Jersey, and he's coming in with almost no ownership, at least over on DraftKings. Dougie Hamilton coming in with a fair bit of ownership because he's still priced down at 5,800. Calvin DeHaan might be out tonight, so that could lead to a lot more minutes for somebody like Jake McCabe or Connor Murphy. I guess we'll see at warmups. What do you think about defensemen here?
I'm fine with Severson if you want to correlate power play. Dougie, I think, is a fine one-off at his price. If DeHaan's out, I'm very interested in Jake McCabe. I think Connor Murphy at 4K is a little pricey. I think if you want a shot or a block bonus, you save the 900 and go to McCabe over Murphy. If you are playing the Hawks top line and want to include Seth Jones, he is at 6,200, which is cheap for him. So I think that is fine as well.
Yep, I agree with that. Let's talk about Yahoo Fantasy for a minute. Yahoo Fantasy has been our sponsor this entire season, and we have and that partnership is to bring you some great offers. Check out our exclusive limited time offer, which gets you 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. To qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo. Sign up for an account via the link below. Deposit and play. That's it. Yahoo will send us your name after you played in your first paid contest, and we will reach out via email with your coupon. If you'd like to speed up the process of getting access, email support@awesemo.com. We'll get you set up right away. You can also claim a free $10 of site credit by clicking the link in the video description below, and that can be used to enter any Yahoo contest, including tonight's $2,000 NHL Baller. Make sure to use our DFS tools and projections designed specifically for Yahoo to give yourself the best shot at winning big. All right, let's get to a few more of these games. We've got Vegas we've got Winnipeg going into Colorado. Winnipeg has a 2.5 implied goal total. Colorado has a 4.0 implied goal total. Doesn't seem to be any major changes on the Winnipeg side. For Colorado, Nathan MacKinnon looks like he's going to be back in the lineup. So we're assuming, top line back together, Landeskog, McKinnon, Rantanen. And then the second line, as it has been with Kadri, Burakovsky, and Nichushkin. Of course, that means so long JT Compher, top power play. We hardly knew ye. On the Jet side, as I mentioned, no significant changes. Andrew Kopp not playing for them. He's out on the third line. Again, looks like Jansen Harkins and Adam Brooks beside Adam Lowry. All right. We were talking about ownership. We're going to have to see what our ownership runs look like in our top stacks and all that once we get a new run with the new Colorado lines. But the way Colorado usually works is that they're so expensive. They never come in super highly owned. Like this line might come in at like 15. I don't know. I'm just guessing here, like 15% or something like that. But that still makes them a good play because, of how high their upside is. Do you want to play that line here tonight? What are we doing with this game, Josh?
I really like Colorado 1. I think they're going to come in lower owned than Carolina 1, and they're an equally, if not better matchup. Like Winnipeg 1, like for as much as they've gotten their offensively recently, their defensive numbers just are not good at 5-on-5. They have a 46% Corsi for percentage, which is underwater. They give up 14 high danger chances against per 60 and 3 expected goals against per 60. They're going to be locked in a rink with McKinnon, Rant, and Landeskog for 20 minutes. Yeah, good luck. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to tell me I can get them lower owned than Carolina 1, who have good numbers, but in a much smaller sample. This Colorado sample goes back, a long, long time. Yeah, Hellebuck and net, but that doesn't bother me too much. So I'm in on Colorado 1. You want to go to Colorado 2? I think that is fine as well. You got a nice little stat on Dubois and Connor. I'll let you take that. But I think, Colorado 2 is perfectly fine here as well, but I think it's going to be Colorado 1 for me. On the Jet side, you want to go to the flow chart. This is a really bad matchup. So what do you do in really bad matchups with Winnipeg 1? You play them because they always get there in bad matchups. But seriously, they're coming in over-owned tonight. I'm not really interested in the Jets tonight. If you want to do anything, it'd probably be a power play stack. But that being said, power play stacking a 2.5 total on the road against the Avs and a 4 total just, isn't something you should do in 1 to 3 lineups. Again, you make your own lineups, you make your own decisions. I don't think I would be power play stacking the Jets tonight in my 1 lineup.
Yeah. The Colorado penalty kill has not been good. That's one thing I want to mention. 6th most expected goals against per 60 minutes over their last 20 games played on the penalty kill. What's saving them is goaltending. The goaltending has been excellent. It does seem like they're good at preventing some dangerous shots. It's just some tend to leak through. So I think the Colorado penalty kill can be had here. I just have a tough time getting to Winnipeg here again. I dropped some stats in our Discord about the Pierre-Luc Dubois and Kyle Connor line. Now, they have been good at times with Andrei Svechnikov earlier in the season, or Evgeny Svechnikov, sorry. They have been good at times with Cole Perfidi. But those good times have been punctuated by some very bad times. And since Christmas, the duo of Pierre-Luc Dubois and Kyle Connor, 45% of the expected goals, 2.1 expected goals for. That's below average league-wide. There's no way around it. It's just bad. When you're talking about a second line that should be scoring, not at will, but probably should be scoring somewhere near 3 goals per 60 minutes, if not more, that's really bad. It's kind of what's drawing me away from really any Winnipeg here. That Colorado second line on their own as well has been excellent this year. The Kadri-Nichushkin duo, 16 scoring chances against per 60 minutes. They've been absolutely in fuego defensively, generating nearly 30 scoring chances per 60 minutes in return. That second line has been great. So you're telling me, a Winnipeg second line is going to have to go in that. And then you have the Scheifele-Stasny line that they just haven't been, they've been fine, basically even by expected goals for and expected goals against. But again, they're going to the teeth of that Colorado team here today at home. I just don't like even strength stacking these lines for Winnipeg. I think if I were to stack, it would be some sort of power play stack from them here tonight. I think that's the best way to attack Colorado, is, maybe have Scheifele, Wheeler, Connor, or something like that, Scheifele, Wheeler, Dubois, and then hope you can get a couple on the power play. And then maybe, they get one at even strength or something like that. I think that's kind of how you would attack Winnipeg. The Winnipeg penalty kill has been better on their own, but obviously this Colorado power play can be just elite. I do like Colorado 1 a lot here tonight. You want to sub in Kadri for McKinnon, save a little bit of savings for a power play stack. I think you can do that, but I really do like Colorado 1. I like Colorado 2 as well. I think they're going to be reasonably owned as a stack here tonight because there are, some expensive components there. And they've been great. 70 shot attempts per 60 minutes in their sample, 29, as I mentioned, 29 scoring chances. So I think I'm going to be building a fair bit around Colorado 1. I don't know if I'm going to move in some fillers for Colorado 2, but I do think that line is just fine to use. So Colorado 1, maybe Colorado 2. If you're stacking Winnipeg, I think power play stacking would be the way to go. On the blue line, Dylan DeMello playing on the top pair is starting to get some more minutes for Winnipeg. He's only 2,700 going into a team that takes a lot of shots. I feel like he's definitely a threat for the block bonus over on DraftKings. Josh Morrissey's still getting some prime ice time for Winnipeg. He's still reasonable, 4,200. On the Colorado side, I think it's basically the same 2 guys that we always use. It's Makar or Taves. Anybody else stick out to you?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to punt DeMello, that's fine. Brendan Dillon's $100 cheaper. He's live for a block bonus as well. It's Cale Makar. If you're using Colorado one, can't get there. Devin Tays. That's really about it. Like, if you want to play Girard, that's fine. Not super. I'd rather just play Tays or Makar.
You know how I know that we're starting to have a little bit of influence on the people that that watch this show is I see Nick Chaplevsky say Winnipeg flowchart, baby. And that's absolutely dead right. We talk about the Winnipeg flowchart. Is Winnipeg playing? Yes. Is it a bad matchup? Yes. Play them. Like, that's just, is it a good matchup? Yes. Don't play them. Like, that's our Winnipeg flowchart.
If the winning lineup is Columbus 1, Winnipeg 1 tonight, like, you'll see me in 2025.
Yeah, I think this might be the last strategy show if Columbus 1 is optimal here tonight. All right, we do have to move along a little bit. We've got a couple more games to talk about here. We have the Vegas Golden Knights with a 3.7 implied goal total going into Arizona. The Arizona Coyotes have a 2.3 implied goal total. There could be some movements around here for Vegas. Evgeny Dodonov has moved to the second line because Jonathan Marchessault looks like he's sick or out or something like that. He wasn't at practice. So looks like Dodonov is moving to the second line for Vegas. And that throws a wrench in my plans because I had high hopes for Vegas 2 here tonight. But quite honestly, and I like Dodonov as a player. Marchessault to Dodonov is a big step down, like in just about every regard offensively that you can think of. So I honestly don't know what to make of that second line anymore. Why don't you try to clear this up for us, Josh?
Yeah. I mean, this is another really good matchup, and there's not much ownership here on Vegas. So, I was in on both their top 6 lines. Like, Marchessault, Carlson, Smith, always over-owned, and I'm just like, whatever. But they were they're coming in with positive leverage, and now Marchessault's out, and boo-boo. I think I'm going to go to the top line here. I wish Stevenson was on the top power play. That would make things much better. But Eichel Pacioretty seems like they're starting to get some chemistry together. Eichel looks like he's, getting his legs under him. They're getting an excellent power play matchup here. They're going to get an excellent 5-on-5 matchup here. And they're coming in, half the ownership of Chicago 1 at the same price. So I'm in on Vegas 1 here. Let's see, later on with the ownership run, see if they'll probably creep up a little bit during the day, but I still think they'll come in under 15%. And I think that's perfectly fine. You want to leave off Stevenson, that's fine. You want to add in someone for the top power play, Dadonov or, Nick Roy, also fine. I may just go like Eichel Pacioretty, Theodore, and move on. This is a very good power play matchup. I need to I had my thoughts together on this game with Marchessault, and right before we came on, they're like, yeah, he's out. So I'm just like, I'm not sure what I want to do with the second line yet. They're still in a really good spot. But I feel like Marchessault is the straw that stirs the drink on that line. So I'm going to have to collect my thoughts on that. I'm probably going to be out on them. At least from full stacking, maybe I'll add in Dadonov on a power play stack or one off him or something. But, Marchessault not being there does change things for me. On the Arizona side, our pal Josh Anderson. So I don't know if I'm going to be getting to any Yotes here. I know he will. I think it would be the Krause, Galchenyuk, Kessel line for me. You want to one-off Clayton Keller. That's a little expensive on DraftKings, 6,100. I'd rather, get some power play correlation with Krause and Kessel for 7,100 for the two of them.
I've started to think about Vegas a little bit more. This is kind of where I'm landing is Marchessault down to Dodonov saves $2,000, right? And that makes Vegas to 11,800. It feels like a line that can go in with Colorado 1 or something like that. You know what I mean? What I mean about Dodonov is that typically Marchessault is a shooter. He's a very good shooter. He's the shooter on that line. Can also drive the play. Now, Dodonov can also drive the play. not typically as big of a shooter, but, you know, in the month of December, Dadonov actually leads this team in shot rate per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. So I don't suspect that'll last. You know, I imagine Marchessault, Pacioretty, and those guys will find their way to the top once we get a bigger sample. But Dadonov can hold his own. And I think the $2,000 savings is important when you're considering a super expensive line like Colorado won here tonight. So I think that's kind of the only situation where I would use them. Like, I don't see a real need anywhere else on this slate to play like an $11,000 line. You know what I mean? Unless you're going with super expensive defensemen. It's only Vegas 2 plus Colorado 1, but I think that might make a nice fit here tonight for a cheap line. You know, you can two-man them and add in a defenseman. You know, Alex Pietrangelo is probably going to be running their power play unit. So if you want to leave off the Dadonov or you want to leave off Smith and add in a defenseman, I think that's just fine. So I think I might still have some Vegas 2 here tonight. It's Vegas 1 that's interesting to me because like the Arizona top line has been used a lot as a shutdown line, Keller, Boyd, Schmaltz, and they're not very good as a shutdown line. 33 scoring chances against per 60 minutes, controlling only 39% of the scoring chance share. That is not good by any stretch of the imagination. If that's going to go into Vegas 1 a fair amount here tonight, I think Vegas 1 at least needs to be considered in your heavy stacks, especially where they're not super expensive. Like Chandler Stevenson definitely knocks off a big chunk of that price. So I think both the Vegas top lines are certainly play. I think the way I'm going to be approaching my builds tonight, I'm going to have more of that Vegas second line. But yeah, that's a great matchup for Vegas 1 going in Arizona. My one problem is this. Max Pacioretty since Christmas, 9 games, 13.3 individual shot attempts per 60 minutes. In like 20 games before that, it was double, 26.3. His shot rate has fallen off just cataclysmically over his last 10 games. It like, you know, shot rates do happen all the time to players, and then they rebound. It's just a matter of, does this keep going? Does Jack Eichel maybe take some shots away from him? Because, you know, Chandler Stevenson, typically not a big shooter. Jack Eichel is. That's a different guy playing center, even though, you know, Stevenson's on that line on the wing now. I think there are enough concerns that, like, if you don't want to pay $14,000 for Pacioretty plus Eichel on DraftKings, I think like you're fine to just say, you know what, I'll just not take a guy that could be playing hurt or is just not shooting or whatever, and look somewhere else. So I just want to say that about Vegas 1, but I do like Vegas 2 a lot. Arizona 2 kind of interests me, but really they're getting caved in defensively. So like, I'm wondering how much of the puck they'll actually have here tonight. I think once I get to Arizona 2, it's just one-offing a Galchenyuk or something like that. That's about where I'm at for the forwards. On the blue line, Arizona's been basically running 4 defensemen, like Gostisbehere, Mayo, Strawman, Chychrun, all around 20 minutes and nobody else getting ice time. So it's basically one of those 4 guys. You know, I'll probably take somebody like Mayo and just look for the block bonus on DraftKings as opposed to paying $5,400 for Jacob Chychrun and hope he hits the double bonus or something like that. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm fine with Mayo or Ghost. On the Vegas side, Theodore, Pietrangelo, obviously. Barbie Girl, Ben Hutton, top pair, min price. I'm fine with that as a one-off as well. McNabb always in play. I just don't know how busy he will be blocking shots tonight. Coyotes have to gain the zone to shoot the puck, which could be an issue for them tonight.
Yeah. Somebody asked in chat who might take the top power play role. It's like Nicholas Roy is a good bet. As they mentioned, he has been getting a fair amount of power play time when they have missed bodies this year. So him going to the top power play seems like a decent bet. Here at Awesemo, we have the Awesemo Hall of Fame where we like to celebrate our subscriber success. We talked earlier today about Mookie taking down the 20 max. We talked earlier today about Nawada taking down the $19 Fantasy Hockey World Championship qualifier. If you want to get into the Awesemo Hall of Fame, this is how you do it. Download the Awesemo profile from awesemo.com/avatar. Place in the top 3 of a contest with at least 5,000 contestants. And if you do all that, Send it into the Awesemo Hoff account on Twitter, and you can win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. First guy you'll see, shout out to News God. He's the guy that does a lot of updates for us in Discord. So shout out to Pick'em Genius and the good people at Awesemo for the fire. League of Legends projections took down third place for $250 playing League of Legends over on FanDuel. Fourth quarter All-Star game. People were playing that. I see the Guru taking down first place for a $200 hit. One of our producers here, Jordan Klein, taking down third in the NBA All-Star Game Showdown for $600. Lots of winners in the NHL lately that we have been talking about. Not as many sent into the Awesemo Hall of Fame, but we have been doing well. I'm sure the NBA guys will have a lot more to talk about over the next few days as the NBA really starts to get rolling. Speaking of NBA, bunch of NBA shows coming up after us. We have the Prize Picks NBA show at 3:30 Eastern with Aton and EMAC. And then the Locks Before Lock NBA prop betting show, at 4:30 Eastern. And that leads into the NBA double dose of your deeper dive and live before lock. All right, Josh, one game to get to. Los Angeles, 2.8 implied goal total. Anaheim, 2.8 implied goal total. Not looking like too much changes on either side. In fact, I don't think there was a single one. Seems like a fairly even game back and forth, and there's not a lot of ownership on either side here, Josh. I kind of like this. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Gibson's going to be the highest owned player from this game just because goalie's just so bad. Gibson under 8K. Everyone knows Gibson's pedigree. They're just going to be like, boop, Gibson. It's fine. You want to play Gibson? Perfectly fine. I'm on LA Kings 2 here. 231 minutes this season. That's not a small sample. That's a big sample. They're still generating over 4.1 expected goals for per 60. It's the highest of any line this season, I think. They're going to get the Zegras-Raquel-Henrique matchup, which has been pretty high event in their own right. So that's just going to be some, hope you got your 3D glasses on because you're going to, puck's going to be going all over the place. So I'm in on LA Kings too, and the ownership's so down because the ownership's so high on Gibson right now. You're going to give me that line at 3%. I say thank you, and I will play them. If you want to play LA1, I think that's fine. They just played at such a slow pace on the road that I just don't know if I want to play them. If you want to, stack them for the power play, that's fine. I just, their pace of play reminds me of Ryan O'Reilly, David Perron on the road. So I'm in on LA2. You want to play LA1, that's fine, but I prefer LA2. On the Ducks side, I kind of like Milano, Getzlaf, Terry for two reasons. Their ownership's very low, and they're going to get bottom six matchups with the Kings. Like Anthony Ciu, Byfield, Brown, probably okay offensively, not good defensively. So you want to get to that Ducks top line, that's fine. Like that second line, Henrique, Zegras, Raquel, they're going to get that Danault Arvidsson matchup. So yeah, you can play them. I just think LA2 just runs people over. But if you want to get to them, that's fine. Not super thrilled about anything on the Ducks, really. But if I had to choose a line, it would be that Milano Getzlaf Terry line.
Yeah. Real quick, I'm typically not in on Los Angeles 1. I think this is a Los Angeles 1 night for me. Looking at their leverage on their top stacks, one of the 5 best leverage lines on the slate. They're going up, as you mentioned, Anaheim mostly uses their third line, not exclusively, but often uses the third line as a shutdown line. The third line for Anaheim this year, 40% of the shot share, 32% of the scoring chance share. This line sucks. So I don't know why they're going into Kings 1, but Kings 1 has been 62% of the scoring chance share over their last 100 minutes. And Anaheim has one of the worst penalty kills in hockey. In fact, they're dead last by expected goals against allowed on the penalty kill over the last 6 weeks. So I like that Los Angeles top line, all three of them on the power play together. If you want to throw on some Drew Doughty for some additional power play exposure, I think that's just fine. Kings 2, definitely in play. As you mentioned, super high event, super high pace line. I think they're absolutely in play as one of the filler lines here tonight. Very reasonable ownership at 3% as well. I just think I'll be paying up a little bit more for that Kings 1 power play exposure. I want to get up against this Ducks penalty kill. That's kind of my focus here. On the Anaheim side, I kind of like the second line better. The reason is they just play to a high pace. I want a line that pushes the pace. Anaheim's top line doesn't. Anaheim's second line does. That's just my reasoning here. So Anaheim 2, Los Angeles 1, especially for me in this game. If you want to play LA 2, no problems there. But I think I want to get as much exposure to that Anaheim penalty kill as possible. On the blue line, I think it's just correlating. I almost never play defenseman from Anaheim, so just correlating for me. What do you think?
Yeah, just correlating for me. Matt Roy is under 4K now. I mean, if you want to one off him, that's fine. I'd much prefer to play Drew Doughty, even with the second line, because Arvidsson does get some top power play time. So Duck side, the prices are still in, La La Land or Disneyland, whatever is out in Anaheim. Yeah. Disneyland.
Yeah, I agree. Just one quick question in chat. It says, would you game stack Los Angeles, Anaheim? Seems like they could zip up and down the ice. I don't necessarily hate it. 5.5 total here. I think I might like game stack Winnipeg, Colorado, or even Carolina, Columbus before this game. But honestly, on a 6-game slate, if you're going to tell me you're going to game stack just about any game, I'll say I think it's fine. What do you think?
Yeah, and for your expected value, try not to stack the Zegras line and the Denal line because they're going to go against each other. So, like, you're really hurting your upside if you're using lines against each other. So you could do like Kings 1, Ducks 2, or, Kings 1, Ducks 1, because they won't be going up against each other. Just, I would avoid going up, stacking lines going against each other.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. All right, we got to get out of here. I'm going to ask you for your hat trick picks and your goalies. My hat trick pick was Jonathan Marchessault, but he's not playing tonight, so I panicked, and I'm going with Pavel Buchnevich. My goalies are John Gibson, if you want a little bit of security, but it feels like he could be fairly chalky. If you really want to get wild, Connor Hellebuck. What do you think?
Pavel Buchnevich, and I took that personally. Goalies are a mess tonight. I think, I think Brossoit, if he starts, is okay. Hellebuck is a wild ride. On DraftKings, he's a little bit better just because he has the chance at the saves bonus. Billy Husso, if you're paying up again. Freddie Anderson, like the pay down options on DraftKings, they're like Berube, Dustin Tokarski, Gillies, or Wedgwood. Like, good luck. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's why I think there's so much ownership on Gibson, which is fine. And my hat trick pick is going to be Mikko Rantanen.
All right, there you go. Mikko Rantanen is your hat trick pick from Josh. Mine is Pavel Buchnevich. Don't forget, we have a bunch of NBA coming up after us. So anybody playing a little bit of basketball tonight, 4 shows coming up over the rest of the day for you guys. We will be back tomorrow with an NHL strategy show. I believe it's at noon Eastern. But it is going to be tomorrow sometime in the middle of the day. So if you're playing NHL tomorrow, come hang out with us. But good luck tonight. For producer Tyler, for single entry assassin, Mr. Joshua Harris, and Michael Clifford saying good luck, and we'll see you tomorrow.